So now we arrive in 1070. William's been in power since 1066 and he's faced constant Anglo-Saxon resistance. He's had the policy of integration, and the Anglo-Saxons have thought, if we resist this enough, if we fight back enough, we'll be able to reverse this Norman conquest. And now we arrive at a massive turning point in William's reign. It starts with the harrying of the North. Why does William decide to harry the North? Well, for one, Earl Robert Cumon and his men had been slaughtered in the North, and thousands more Normans had been killed in the uprising in York. William has sworn revenge for these Anglo-Saxon rebellions. The problem he faces is every time he goes to fight off these rebellions, there's no one there. The Anglo-Saxons have had a campaign of guerrilla warfare, which meant the northern rebels were refusing to meet William in open battle, scattering, running away into the forest when William starts to arrive, and then they would launch attacks on Normans as soon as William went away to deal with rebellions elsewhere in the country. William's response, therefore, is he decides he's going to make it impossible for anyone to live in the area, including rebels. The innocent are going to suffer along with the guilty. He wants to make it so nobody can inhabit the area. The other thing is, William had perhaps not previously realised how different the North was from southern England, how much the North resented being ruled from the south, and how closely many people in the North in the Danelaw identified with their Danish heritage. The North clearly required different tactics to the rest of England. In addition to that, these uprisings in the North, what do other people in the country start doing if they see the North rebelling and revolting? Well, they decide to do it themselves. The rebellions in the North were triggering rebellions elsewhere in the country. It was not possible for William to continue dragging his troops from one hotspot to another. So I've just spoke about this combination combine this with the idea of guerrilla warfare. William is dragging his soldiers all around the country, dealing with one rebellion in one part of the country, then having to go to another part of the country to deal with a rebellion there, then move to another part for another rebellion. And every time he leaves one of these areas, the rebels just start up again, killing Normans and causing disruption. Then he goes back and they've hidden again. This constant campaign of guerrilla warfare leaves William dragging his forces all around the country. It becomes unsustainable. In addition to that, there's the threat of Danish invasion, very, very serious, and threatens everything that William had achieved in England. At the same time, Normandy was facing its own rebellion in Maine, so William prioritised England despite the threat to Normandy. So what I was saying here is the North has been used as a base for Danish and Viking invasion because it's in the Danelaw, so they could rely on support there. So the North has been used as a base for invasion. William decides he's going to make that land inhospitable, so it cannot house an army there. It can't have anybody there. He doesn't want the army using it as a base, so he's going to make it inhospitable to anybody. You've also got the simple fact that William's in London or Normandy, and therefore the North is further away from him, and that's why there's more rebellions there. So he decides to harry the North, lay waste to the land, causing the death of around 100,000 people. It's a genocide. So the harrying of the North, 1069 to 1070, a permanent deterrent to rebellion. The short-term consequences of it, the North is laid to waste. Crops and livestock are scarce to almost non-existent. This means the Anglo-Saxons have no food and no protection from the cold, so many are either killed during the actual harrying or succumb to the elements. They freeze to death, starve to death, whatever, they're left with nothing. Those who survive obviously can't stay in the North, so those refugees have to flee south, and some people even sold themselves into slavery, it says in the textbook, but remember the Normans actually kind of get rid of slavery, so you want to be saying they sold themselves into serfdom in order to get by. Around 100,000 people are killed in the harrying of the North. Nobody who had been caught during the harrying was left alive. It's a brutal campaign from William and his soldiers. It's a deterrent. Effectively, at this point, William has snapped. This is the start of Norman integration. I'm just going to get rid of the Anglo-Saxons and Normanize the country. So, what does this lead to? Well, the long-term consequences of it, from William's point of view, pretty good, really. No more uprisings in the area. Well, there's no one there to rise up, but there you go. Also, it's never used as a base for the Danes again, is it? Because if you remember the rebellion of Hereward the Wake with the Danes, that happens further south. So this does stop the north from being a base for Danish Viking invasion. So there's no more uprisings in the area. The region doesn't recover for even 20 years later. We see records in the Domesday Book which shows economically there's nothing happening in this land. It's waste, it's Vasa, it's wasteland. The crown lost money from not being able to tax the area because no one's there. This is shown by the Domesday Book. It's not producing anything, no one lives there, so it cost the country money, it cost the crown money. It's also the beginning of the process of Normanization. Forget this idea of integration. I'm sick of dealing with these Anglo-Saxon rebellions. I'm just going to get rid of Anglo-Saxons in positions of power. I'm just going to normanize everything. No more integration. No more Mr. Nice Guy. The harrying of the North was a slaughter, a genocide that made the North uninhabitable. The harrying was so brutal that William later felt the need to repent, as he felt it would stop him getting into heaven. He says sorry for this on his deathbed because he's absolutely desperate to get into heaven. He goes, oops, sorry lads, might have gone a bit too far there. So now he's embarked on his policy of Normanization. What's he going to do? Well, first of all, land equals power, so we're going to take that away from Anglo-Saxons and give it to Normans. This is entirely, land ownership is entirely at the discretion or choice or whim of the king, therefore increasing royal control. Land equals power, and all land transactions and holdings were linked directly to the crown. William, the phrase you want is William inserts himself into every land transaction. This brings more money and a larger army to England, while alienating or ostracising or getting rid of Anglo-Saxons by placing Normans in control of land. This was William's Normanisation of England and increased his power over England after the failure of integration. So how does he do it? How does he change the land holding? Well, first of all, forfeits, as in give up. Anyone caught acting against the king would be made to forfeit their land. Simply, if you're disloyal, I'm going to take your land off you. It reverts back to the crown, back to William, who would redistribute it, give it to someone who will be loyal. So if you're disloyal, I'll take your land and I'll give it to someone who will be loyal to me. This was perfectly legal under William's system. Heirs would even have to pay to inherit land that belonged to their fathers. This was the relief tax. Very, very clever from William. Because now if I'm a landowner, I'm not going to act against William because I know my children will suffer as a result of it. This ensures loyalty from landowners and powerful people in William's country. William's land. William would change the amount of this relief tax based on who wanted to buy the land. So effectively, if you're rich, I'm going to put the price of the land up. However, he also values loyalty. So loyalty could mean you could inherit the land for less if he believed he could trust you over somebody who had perhaps more wealth. William can, in essence, William can exploit this system for his own benefit, increasing the power of the king as discussed. This encourages generational loyalty because it, as in from one generation, one parent, one father to son, to son, to son, to son. Because if you stay loyal to William, then your descendants will pay a lower relief tax. So this is the idea of encouraging generational loyalty. For example, after the Battle of Hastings, all Godwinson land was forfeited because they'd gone against William during the battle, and now he can give that land to somebody who thinks will be loyal, and then they're going to divide it up as well, as we'll see. So new earldoms are created from forfeited land. William created new earldoms, making earldoms smaller to reward his followers, but also to protect his land. So, for example, the Godwinson land, the area of Wessex, he would have divided that up into many, many more earldoms to be controlled by tenants-in-chiefs. That way he can give that power to lots of people rather than one to reward many, many followers. So, for example, the Marcher earldoms New earldoms were made from blocks of forfeited land, so it was, again, perfectly legal, all this. If you do something disloyal, you will forfeit your land, and I will split it up and give it to people who I think will be loyal. The other method of changing land ownership from Anglo-Saxon to Norman, very simply, land grabs, just nicking it. Land grabs were basically theft, therefore illegal seizures of land or corrupt dealings, leading to Anglo-Saxons losing land to the Normans. But who are you going to tell about it? Because the people in charge are Norman. Norman sheriffs themselves would even do this, and it was extremely unfair. But again, who are the Anglo-Saxons going to complain to? The Normans are in charge.